All right, guys. How you doing? Greetings. Welcome back. Black Bear News. Remember to like the video. Make sure that you are still subscribed. Very important to make sure that you are still subscribed. William Moy, how you doing? Cindy Seeley. Hello, people. Again, interesting things happening with the numbers. Hello, people. Sean, how are you? Jennifer, Elizabeth, how are you? Yeah. The way things are being, manipulated in the digital space is very interesting. It makes me actually question the validity of much of anything. And I'm sure there are commenters that would be like, duh, I told you so. I told you everything is manipulated. But I totally see how people, I totally see how people can come to that conclusion. You know, it's not one that I'm willing to give myself over to completely, because I think at some point, if you start assuming that everything in the world is fake or manipulated or a simulation or some kind of whatever, then on some level you're turning off your brain. And I'm not really into turning off my brain. I'm not into anybody turning off their brains to just blindly accept, one mode of belief about the world. I'm just not into it. And I think that's, the path to doom. The real path to doom is, assuming the world works one way and then that's just the way it works. And then you never really have to go outside of those parameters. You never really have to change your mindset or think any differently or open your mind to new ideas or, question ideas. The real, I guess I side I err on the side of being a skeptic on all things, right? And so being skeptical doesn't necessarily mean that you never believe that anything is true. It just, it's that, you should question everything that you see and hear and think even. Give everything lots and lots of perusal from all sides. I think that's like the healthy way to exist. But if you do live in this world and believe, the mainstream narrative, the ideas that you get from the mainstream sources of information or news, surely you are being misinformed. You're disinformed. You're uninformed. And if you insist on believing that those things are true, you are willfully uninformed. I have to say that people that actually, give a lot of weight or credence to mainstream sources of information or narratives are actually low information people, even though they believe that they actually have information. They believe that if you believe everything that CNN is telling you or Washington Post is telling you, if you insist that you're well informed because you believe those things, I'm going to tell you that you're a low information individual. Oh, people would lose their minds. Oh, people would, be telling me all kinds of things about myself. Okay. So I have the door open and, I have plenty of Wi-Fi, but, YouTube is telling me that I'm not getting enough. I also have plenty of memory going, but for some reason YouTube is telling me that I'm not getting enough video or information. So that's very interesting because, All the parameters are in place for me to have a nice, fine, smooth video, but whatever. YouTube, I don't believe you. I don't believe your numbers. I don't believe your reporting. I don't believe anything about anything that you're trying to tell the people that are trying to do videos on YouTube. I don't believe you. Anyways. Yeah, so whatever. Just random thoughts. Morning thoughts. Maybe I should write these down and call them morning thoughts. Or something like that. That's actually usually when I have all kinds of, the pistons are firing and the brain waves are crashing. Jennifer Elizabeth, The Matrix, indeed, boiled rope lamppost, conscious agent theory. Jennifer Elizabeth, red pill. Yeah, exactly. Beginner's mind. Start learning now. Exactly. Beginner's mind. Indeed. I've actually had to fight for a long time to have a beginner's mind, or I guess maybe to allow myself to, I don't know. I spent a large part of my life being resistant to taking in outside information, and it's still actually, so, I don't know. I have a big wall against sometimes seeking out new information, but other people might look at me from the outside and say, "What are you talking about? You're usually way out there more than most people." But still, that's something that I have to fight against. Echoes of Not. 1.3 billion people in India on lockdown. Is this ever going to get interesting or getting interesting? Right. Nick 002, a Rwandan man who reportedly defied a nationwide coronavirus lockdown to go fishing, has been killed. And Rich Diana, at least he didn't get the virus. Jay Ackert, +1 for the croc. Aaron Murr, Had Valmer, welcome to your bubble. Karen Daly, hey, hello. Jay Ackert, that crocodile was practicing rewilding. Yeah. Guys, I don't know why my video is so slow. There's absolutely no reason for my video to be slow right now, and I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. I know that it keeps stalling, and there's absolutely no reason why it should be stalling. So I apologize. My immediate theory is that something weird is going on. How's that for scientific? Natural Progressive. Oh, you got Paul Beckwith on. Nice. Natural Progressive has Paul Beckwith on in an hour. Very good. My test results will be not be in for a few days. Okay. Sending you good thoughts, Natural Progressive. Damian Gonzalez, can I come over and fix your Wi-Fi? I don't have Wi-Fi or computer issues. I'm having, manipulation issues is what I'm trying to say. Although I need an extender, as my issue is that for whatever reason I have an extender, but it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It actually ends up just working like my regular Wi-Fi, so I just have to keep my door open and use my regular Wi-Fi. Andrew Walsh, Nazi Tube, indeed. So yeah, again, the number of viewers that they're showing on your screen are not real because they're telling me I only have 30 viewers and I have plenty of chatters in the chat thing. Yesterday I had 120 viewers, which is, it's they're not alerting people to the fact that I'm on, for one thing, and they're also trying to squash my channel, insanely squash my channel. Sorry. It's hard for me to get through a video without talking about it, but I'll try not to go overboard on it. Christian Sorensen, yep, the Croc says stay the fuck at home. Thanks, Damien. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I'll let you know. Okay, it's all fine on your end? That's good. That's good. Andrew Walsh, think about it. All the people on lockdown using the internet. Well, it could be that, yeah. I agree with you. Sure. Exactly. Stalling because everybody's at home watching YouTube. Which could be another reason, but it's funny to me because the difference between having 120 viewers and struggling to get 30 on my live streams is funny to me. There's no in between, right? There's no like, well, 50 or it's the same numbers, which is funny. This is why I think that YouTube is actually bullshitting, is full of shit, because it's always the same numbers, right? It's like I either have 120 viewers or I have 30, and I'm struggling to maybe get 40, but it's never anywhere in between. And they're always squashing my view. All the view counts on my videos, they try and keep them below 1,000, which is hilarious. Because yesterday I had 500 views on my video in an hour, and then they told me, and now so 500 views in an hour, but over the next 23 hours I only got 300 views. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. I have 2,600 subscribers. That doesn't make any sense. So it's just whatever. Damien Gonzalez, extenders kill bandwidth, not great for streaming. Yeah, I bet, this is kind of my only, unless I run another box out here, I don't know what else to do. The intertubes are clogged up, need a plunger. Natural Progressive, I think the numbers are wrong, mine too, yeah. Andrew Walsh, I get all your links. Jarek Naylor, I've been having a hard time finding your videos lately. Yes, so a lot of people have been telling me that. A lot of people have been telling me that they don't get the notifications, or they can't find my videos. Anyways, so echoes of not listening while cooking. Enjoy. So again, make sure you like the video. Make sure you're still subscribed. So just going through the news items for the day, because I'll quit talking about YouTube. White House, Senate reach historic $2 trillion stimulus deal amid growing coronavirus fears. So apparently they've reached an agreement, but they're trying to make you think that this actually has happened yet. This actually hasn't been voted into law. They just agreed to a deal. They just basically agreed on principle to this package. They haven't actually ratified it in the Senate yet today, although they're saying we're done. We've done it. We have a deal. So, I mean, you're expecting it to pass through the Senate because they have a deal. However, the full details of the deal have yet to be released. $250 billion set aside for direct payments to individuals, $350 billion in small business loans, $250 billion in unemployment insurance, benefits, and $500 billion in loans for distressed companies. If you notice something, smallest money is going to people. So there's that. The plan will deliver a massive infusion of financial aid into a struggling economy, hard hit by job loss, with provisions to help impacted American workers and families, as well as small businesses and major industries, including airlines. So, yes, as everybody may know, and I know other people are watching from other countries, but this, for the U.S., basically people will get $1,200 a piece. Adults, $500 per child. It gets scaled down if you make more money. It also gets scaled down if you make less money. So if you don't pay a lot in taxes or pay much in taxes, or if you're unemployed or underemployed, then you won't get shit. Or you might get $600, which isn't shit. It ain't shit. $1,200 ain't shit. It ain't shit. So it provides funding for hospitals, governments that are cash strapped due to the response to combat the bug. Let me see. I'm just going down through this article and trying to pick out the. Chuck Schumer suggested the $1 trillion stimulus plan may not be enough to offset the economic damage given the uncertainty of the pandemic. Yeah, hardy har. Probably not enough. Once the deal is released, so here's the important thing to remember. The next question will be how quickly it can be approved by both chambers. So it is not approved yet. So this is a big yay, the stock market's yay, but they have not actually ratified this. So the headlines in the news are okay, here we go. But we have to actually pass it first. Next question will be how quickly it can be approved by both chambers, a challenge made more daunting by the fact that Congress is now operating in a scenario where several of its members have tested positive for the bug, while many more have self-quarantined after contact. It's more likely the House would wait until Thursday to vote. It is unclear when the Senate will act on the legislation. So this hasn't been ratified. And if anybody has news to the contrary, please let me know. I've also heard that after they get this passed, that basically all the lawmakers are going to go take a month off. All right, good luck, guys. You're welcome. Andrew Walsh, they want rubbish on here, nothing with any substance or any bad news, of course. Appreciate y'all that are here hanging with me. Christian Sorensen, all in Denmark, will get covered. There you go. So, people that live in collectivists, socialist, communist countries get help. All the people get help, and those countries are willing to extend help to other countries. But, the U.S. being the great democratic society that we are, and everybody loves their freedom, because, our freedom is the best freedom. Well, we don't get jack shit. And I haven't heard, we can't even deal with our problem as we are experiencing it. I haven't heard anybody suggesting that we send help to other people. Yeah. How you doing, John D? What's up? Welcome, people. Andrew Walsh, I'm Irish, lost my job. I'm either getting $200 on dole or $350 for the bug. That's a week for 8 weeks. Well, that's something. It's not a lot, but it's something. Nick, is that a joke? Trump 2020. Okay. So let's move on. Just quickly, oil prices still kind of all over the place, but mostly way down. Brent crude at 30. Brent crude, I guess, being kind of the global standard, but Mars U.S. at 20. WTI at 24. OPEC basket at 24, Urals 21, Louisiana Light 22, Bonnie Light 25, Mexican basket 15. Ouch. I mean, these are all collapse scenario prices for oil. So here you go. The terribly totalitarian, the horrible country of Venezuela, which is just the worst place that you ever want to be, according to the United States news service, or CNN or MSNBC, whatever. The Venezuelan government announced a series of measures on Sunday in attempts to protect the population from economic effects of the bug. Speaking on a live televised address, President Maduro instructed that all commercial and residential rent, as well as capital and loan interest payments, are to be suspended for 6 months. Wow. Public and private sector workers will receive a special government bonus, and wages of small and mid-sized companies will be paid by the state until September. So if you want an example of a country that actually cares about its people more than it cares about, the health of its economy or the, or profits, or lack thereof of their companies. Just look to Venezuela. That insanely horrible, sadistic, totalitarian regime run by that crazy person Maduro. Last week, Venezuela had a $5 billion U.S. loan appeal to help fight the bug rejected by the IMF. The Washington-based organization justified the move by stating that it does not have clarity on recognition of the Maduro administration. So they're still trying to recognize Guaido as the president. So there's an actual president of a country. He actually is the president of the country. He's actually the leader of the country, and everybody recognizes him as such, except for the U.S. is doing this weird, psychopathic game where they don't recognize that he's actually, the president. So we're recognizing that he's the president because he just said so, or we just said so. So there you go. Just if you want to live in crazy land and make everybody else on the planet crazy because you insist that people believe things that don't actually exist. If you wonder why the official news services, the official narrative makers tell you things that aren't real and insist that you believe these things aren't real, that aren't real are real, and you wonder why Americans are so fucked up. You wonder why Americans vote for Donald Trump. I mean, can you blame them? Can you blame them? Or Americans vote for Joe Biden. Can you blame them? Can you blame them? Anyways, there's Venezuela. If you want to, side by side, if you want to compare U.S. and Venezuela, what they're willing to do for the people. On a positive note for the U.S., though, we did push tax day back 3 months. I mean, it's something. I'll take it. I don't have to worry about paying my taxes in April. That's beautiful. Or filing my taxes. I don't feel like it. Don't feel like it. So 2 articles in the Guardian today, kind of dealing with the same issue of nature. Well, the UN environment chief says that the bug The bug is nature. Nature is sending us a message. Destruction of wildlife and the climate crisis is hurting humanity, with the pandemic a clear warning shot, says experts. Nature is sending us a message with the coronavirus pandemic and the ongoing climate crisis, according to the UN's environment chief Inger Andersen. Andersen said humanity was placing too many pressures on the natural world with damaging consequences, and warned that failing to take care of the planet meant not taking care of ourselves. Leading scientists also said the bug outbreak was a clear warning shot, given that far more deadly diseases existed in wildlife, and that today's civilization was playing with fire. They said it was almost always human behavior that caused diseases to spill over into humans. To prevent further outbreaks, the experts said both global heating and the destruction of the natural world for farming, mining, and housing have to end, as both drive wildlife into contact with people. And it's funny because a friend of mine just texted me today and said, look how nature is smiling in the face of, this thing that has overtaken humanity. And I was like, yeah. To prevent further outbreaks, the experts said both global heating and destruction of the natural world for farming. Oh, I read that. They also urged authorities to put an end to live animal markets, which they called an ideal mixing bowl for disease, and the illegal global animal trade. Okay. Never before have so many opportunities existed for pathogens to pass from wild and domestic animals to people, she told The Guardian, explaining that 75% of all emerging infectious diseases come from wildlife. Our continued erosion of wild spaces has brought us uncomfortably close to animals and plants, a harbor of diseases that can jump to humans. She also noted other environmental impacts, such as the Australian bushfires, broken heat records, and the worst locust invasion in Kenya for 70 years. At the end of the day, with all these events, nature is sending us a message, Anderson said. There are too many pressures at the same time on our natural systems, and something has to give. We are intimately interconnected with nature, whether we like it or not. If we don't take care of nature, we can't take care of ourselves. And as we hurtle toward a population of 10 billion people on this planet, we need to go into this future armed with nature as our strongest ally. Nature as our strongest ally. What does that look like? How would the world look if nature were our strongest ally? Very, very different. I think, if we actually thought in those terms. The emergence and spread of the bug was not only predictable, it was predicted, in the sense that there would be another viral emergence from wildlife that would be a public health threat, said Professor Andrew Cunningham of the Zoological Society of London. A 2007 study of the SARS outbreak concluded the presence of a large reservoir of SARS-CoV-like viruses in horseshoe bats, together with the culture of eating exotic mammals in southern China, is a time bomb. Cunningham said other diseases from wildlife had much higher fatality rates in people, such as 50% for Ebola, 60% to 75% for Nipah virus transmitted from bats in South Asia. Although you might not think it at the moment, we probably got a bit lucky with this particular bug. So I think we should be taking this as a clear warning shot. It's a throw of the dice. It's almost always human behavior that causes it, and there will be more in the future unless we change. China has banned such markets, and Cunningham said they must be permanent. The billion-dollar illegal wildlife trade is another part of the problem, said John Scanlon, the former Secretary General of the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. Importing countries should create a new legal obligation supported by criminal sanctions for an importer of wildlife to prove that it was legally obtained under the source country's national laws. If we can blend taking a hard line against transnational organized wildlife criminals while also opening up new opportunities for local communities, then we will see biodiversity, ecosystems, and communities thrive. But that means you actually have to have the regulations in place and the enforcement in place. That seems to be low on the list of priorities. Another article in the same vein by George Monbiot. The bug is nature's wake-up call to a complacent civilization. A bubble has finally been burst, but will we now attend to the other threats facing humanity? Magic 8 Ball says what? Not likely. We have been living in a bubble of false comfort and denial in the rich nations. We have begun to believe we have transcended the material world. The wealth we've accumulated, often at the expense of others, has shielded us from reality. Living behind screens, passing between capsules, our houses, cars, offices, and shopping malls, we persuaded ourselves that contingency had retreated, that we had reached the point all civilizations seek, insulation from natural hazards. Now the membrane has ruptured. Indeed. On some level, yeah, this has punctured people's idea of safety and the idea of, the inevitability of our system or, how we live or, our consumptive freedom, whatever it is. The entire paradigm in which we live has now, been kind of ripped away and forced us into another reality. And, it's right now we're at the beginning stages of figuring out what that reality is. But, as time goes on, other things will reveal themselves. The temptation when this pandemic has passed will be to find another bubble. We cannot afford to succumb to it. From now on, we should expose our minds to the painful realities we have denied for too long. The planet has multiple morbidities, some of which will make this bug look by comparison easy to treat. One above all others has come to obsess me in recent years. How will we feed ourselves? Fights over toilet paper are ugly enough. I hope we never have to witness fights over food, but it's becoming difficult to see how we will avoid them. A large body of evidence is beginning to accumulate, showing how climate breakdown is likely to affect our food supply. It's already affecting the food supply in Australia. If you have multiple threats converging to, make less food available and, drive people into a panic, then there you go. Then all of a sudden your system is stressed just like that. Already farming in some parts of the world is being hammered by droughts, floods, fire, and locusts, whose resurgence in the past few weeks appear to be the result of anomalous tropical cyclones. When we call such hazards biblical, we mean that they are the kinds of things that happened long ago to people whose lives we can scarcely imagine. Now, with increasing frequency, they are happening to us. In his forthcoming book, Our Final Warning, Mark Linus explains what is likely to happen to our food supply with every extra degree of global heating. He finds that extreme danger kicks in somewhere between 3C and 4C above pre-industrial levels. At this point, a series of interlocking impacts threatens to send food production into a death spiral. Outdoor temperatures become too high for humans to tolerate, making subsistence farming impossible across Africa and South Asia. Livestock die from heat stress. Temperatures start to exceed the lethal thresholds for crop plants across much of the world, and major food-producing regions turn into dust bowls. Simultaneous global harvest failure, something that has never happened in the modern world, becomes highly likely. In combination with a rising human population and the loss of irrigation water, soil, and pollinators, this could push the world into structural famine. Even today, when the world has a total food surplus, hundreds of millions are malnourished as a result of unequal distribution of wealth and power. A food deficit could result in billions starving. Hoarding will happen, as it always has or already has at the global level, as powerful people snatch food from the mouths of the poor. Yet, even if every nation keeps its promises under the Paris Agreement, which currently seems unlikely, global heating will amount to between 3°C and 4°C. The question is the date of those temperatures. Thanks to our illusion of security, we're doing almost nothing to anticipate this catastrophe, let alone prevent it. This existential issue scarcely seems to impinge on our consciousness. Every food-producing sector claims that its own current practices are sustainable and don't need to change. When I challenge them, I'm met with a barrage of anger and abuse and threats of the kind I haven't experienced since I opposed the Iraq War. Man, find it so interesting and infuriating and disheartening that when you point out, people are really angry about a lot of things, but the thing that people are most angry about is the truth. If you tell people the truth, they get really upset. Oh my God. If you point out things that are factual, if you challenge the things that they believe are true with facts, not your own opinion of what the truth is, but actual, here are the facts. Here's what's happening. Oh, they get really, really upset. And they call you angry. Sacred cows and holy lambs are everywhere, and the thinking required to develop new food systems that we need, like lab-grown food, is scarcely anywhere. This is just one of our impending crises. Antibiotic resistance is potentially as deadly as any new disease. One of the causes is the astonishingly profligate way in which these precious medicines are used on many livestock farms. Here's a really frightening thought. What if... we've already seen something like this in mad cow disease, but what if there was a virus that started affecting all livestock? Cows, chickens, pigs, whatever. What if suddenly our food was the thing being infected and dying off? Then what? What if the same thing hit crops, some kind of blight? Suddenly took over all of our food growing regions. Then what would we do? Where vast numbers of farm animals are packed together, antibiotics are deployed prophylactically to prevent otherwise inevitable outbreaks of disease. Some parts of the world they are used not only to prevent disease, but also as growth promoters. Low doses are routinely added to feed, a strategy that could scarcely be better designed to deliver bacterial resistance in the U.S., where 27 million people have no medical cover. Some people are now treating themselves with veterinary antibiotics, including those sold without prescription to medicate pet fish. Wow. Pharmaceutical companies are failing to invest sufficiently in the search for new drugs. If antibiotics cease to be effective, surgery becomes almost impossible. Childbirth becomes a mortal hazard once more. Chemotherapy can no longer be safely practiced. Infectious diseases we have comfortably forgotten about become deadly threats. We should discuss this issue as often as we talk about football, but again, it scarcely registers. Or if you bring it up, you're angry or you're cuckoo. No, that couldn't possibly happen. What are you talking about? Or, the worst of all, dead silence. Crickets. Our multiple crises, of which these are just two, have a common root. The problem is exemplified by the response of the organizers of the Bath Half Marathon, a massive event that took place on March 15th, to the many people begging them to cancel. It is now too late for us to cancel or postpone the event. The venue is built. The infrastructure is in place. The site and our contractors are ready. In other words, the sunk costs of the event were judged to outweigh any future impacts, the potential transmission of disease, and possible deaths it might cause. The amount of time it took the International Olympic Committee to postpone the games could reflect similar judgments, but at least they got there in the end. Sunk costs within the fossil fuel industry, farming, banking, and private healthcare and other sectors prevent the rapid transformation we need. Money becomes more important than life. You don't say. Excuse me. There are two ways this could go. We could, as some people have done, double down on denial. Some of those who have dismissed other threats, such as climate breakdown, also seek to downplay the threat of the current bug. Witness the Brazilian president Jair Bolsonaro, who claims the bug is nothing more than a little flu. The media and opposition politicians who have called for lockdown are apparently part of a conspiracy against him. Or this could be the moment when we begin to see ourselves once more as governed by biology and physics and dependent on a habitable planet. Never again should we listen to the liars and deniers. Never again should we allow a comforting falsehood to trounce a painful truth. No longer can we afford to be dominated by those who put money ahead of life. This bug reminds us that we belong to the material world. Spirits in my material world. How you doing? Kuro Hikes, what's up? Black Bear News does not show up for me anymore. I have to check all the time. Indeed. Yes, they're hiding my notifications and hiding my live streams from people. That's why I know there's something is going on, because it's fairly ridiculous. The disparity between my usual numbers and the actual numbers I'm getting when they decide to go and clamp down. Anyways, John D says, at 4C, sorry, already spoken to people who are having difficulty in farming in Africa and Asia. Mid 40C for 2 weeks kills crops. Yep. Oh yeah, we don't, I agree. There's, the common assumption that 4C is, pretty much extinction. But we could actually say that probably might happen at 3C. That 3C is most likely done and dusted, as Roger Hallam says. Rich Diana, Arctic News Blog, says we're already at 2C if the proper 1750 date of start of fossil fuel burning is used. Blog's research say 3C by 2021. Well, if we get a spike in global heating because of the lack of global dimming, then dun 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 dun. Anthony Gelbert asks how many Americans are being exploited at their most vulnerable. Deacon, how you doing? Deacon G, 1959. Well, the Keynesian system is going to collapse, whether they like it or not. Nothing from nothing means nothing. Rich Diana, capitalism sold us an easy but temporary lifestyle. The bill is due. Basil Peterson, yes, in America we are forced to survive, not live. Michael Arand, I'm being censored in real time. Are you? I don't know. Nick 002, message from nature, don't eat bat. Avoid the bat. Basil Peterson, time for random acts of kindness. Ring-tailed fox, the reason we have economic crises every few years is that the rich are hoarding money and limiting the money supply with artificial scarcity thanks to having 40 trillion in their bank accounts. Well, yes, those in control, they control the rise and the fall. They control the crash and the boom. It's all controlled. Spinning eyeballs. You are all controlled. Ring-tailed fox, it's a liquidity crisis caused by the rich not returning money to the economy. I agree. I totally agree. What better way to, inject money in the economy or spur the economic growth than to give the consumers the money they need to, as seen through the lens of climate change. I don't care about consumers having all the money they want to consume, but that's a whole. We have to totally shift our entire viewpoint in order to discuss everything from the view of climate change and not necessarily from, what's fair to people under a capitalist system. So I don't know. Right now, the thing that's destroying our capitalist system. This situation is really good for the climate. So, just to juxtapose. Deacon G, 1959, my reminders aren't popping up. I didn't get notified until 30 minutes had passed and I looked. Exactly. So just a heads up, guys, probably around 11 a.m. every day is when I'm going to try and do these. So just, check in around 11. Probably will be here. Don't wait for the notification because the notification probably won't come for many. You can also follow me at Black Bear News, the number 1 at Twitter, and I will post my start time on Twitter every day. So you guys can know. Jennifer Elizabeth, plant seeds, plant enough to help a neighbor. Indeed. Jay Ackert, got to pay close attention to crops this year. Indeed. Guyo Smith, conservative estimates from the dimming already lost is 5C, or 0.5C, sorry, not 5C. 0.5C, that's half a degree Celsius. That puts us at over 2C. So we are past the point of overheating, not cool. Not cool in so many ways. John D., plant seeds and start community gardens. Though that is not essential work at this time. No, it's totally essential work. I think actually a really great thing to do over the next 3 months. I mean, start a garden right now, for it is spring. And start the garden and start growing things so that, people can get used to harvesting their own food and also sharing their own food with other people, making food, making things from their own food that they have harvested. All of these are intensely worthwhile. John D, 11 a.m. So what's that, 6 p.m. UK time? Well, I think you're 8 hours ahead of me. I'm Pacific time zone, so I think 7 p.m. UK time. I am 11 a.m. on the Pacific coast of America. So whatever time it is in California, if you want to check Los Angeles time, that's what time I am. So 11 a.m. Los Angeles time every day, every morning. So, just kind of count on that so that I don't lose people to the non-notifications. Anthony Gelbert, 47,000 businesses to not pay rent at the end of this month. Per Zero Hedge. Oh, UK. Oh, so everything is all screwed up because. So maybe you're right. Maybe it is 6 o'clock UK time. Prudhomme says UK is 4 hours ahead of the Eastern Standard Time until next Sunday. Then our clocks go forward 1 hour. That's confusing as hell. So you guys are still on daylight savings time. We are not. So you guys are 7 hours ahead until next week, and then you're 8 hours ahead. Got it. Oh, my God. This is making my brain hurt thinking about it. Well, usually most phones and if you just Google what time is it in LA, it'll tell you what time is it, what's the time in LA. Ow. So if you're ever confused, just Google what time is it, Los Angeles time. That's my time. And then you'll know. Deacon G, 1959. My family has a farm in the Florida Panhandle. They've been out of the farming game for almost 10 years. Even the sharecroppers are walking away. It's cheaper to raise cattle, and that won't last. All right. Let's move on to a couple more news stories. This is pretty horrifying. This is from yesterday. Spanish military finds dead bodies and seniors completely abandoned in care homes. So Spain has been hit very hard by this bug. And it's causing all kinds of problems. Spanish military has found older residents of some care homes completely abandoned and even dead in their beds. Defense Minister Margarita Robles said in a television interview on Monday they were found as soldiers disinfected and provided emergency my dog likes to bite. Emergency health care services this week to residential homes across the country. Robles did not give an exact figure for the number of dead bodies found by Spanish soldiers. More than 39,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 28,000 deaths. 2,800, not 1,000. As of Tuesday, Spain is the second hardest hit country in Europe. On Tuesday, 514 new deaths were registered in a 24-hour period, the worst increase since the outbreak began. Retirement homes have been particularly affected. Last week, one privately owned home in Madrid reported 20 deaths and 75 infections, claiming it didn't have adequate material to take care of the sick residents and dead bodies. While the usual protocol in Spanish nursing homes is to put the body of a deceased, staff in some centers had left the nursing homes after cases of the bug were detected. Residents were abandoned to take care of themselves, even though some were sick and in serious condition. Wow. The defense minister said the government will take action against those responsible. We will be completely relentless and forceful with the kind of treatment elderly residents receive in these centers. I know the vast majority of centers are fulfilling their obligations. Meanwhile, Spanish prosecutors have launched an investigation into the incidents. In Spain, around 19% of the population is older than 65. The country has one of the longest life expectancies in the world. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has called for the nationalization of all privately owned nursing homes, just as he had previously called for the nationalization of private hospitals to help ensure better access as well as adequate staff and equipment. Sounds like a great idea. This is the Prime Minister. Over the weekend, Spain's defense ministry made thousands of phone calls to seniors living alone or in vulnerable situations to assess their health. Wow. Hold on one second, guys. Hold on one second. You may hear a slight buzzing sound. Don't be alarmed. Moving on. So this is good news for people who care about having somebody with, a fully functioning brain, possibly being in charge of the country one day. That would be the United States. Bernie Sanders plans to participate in the April DNC debate. He's planning on staying in the race. This is great because a lot of people have been insisting that he drop out or, he shouldn't stay in. He should just acquiesce and just move out of the way for one dementia-addled Joe Biden who has completely disappeared mostly. Or when he does appear, he just seems to be not capable of carrying on any kind of train of thought or conversation. So this is good. Bernie Sanders staying in, planning to participate in the next debate. I think this is a great idea because as time goes on, it's looking weirder and weirder for Biden. Although I have to say, I really am upset about this idea. What they've been talking about is, Joe Biden should name his VP so that in case he falls over dead or can't even leave his house because he doesn't know who he is anymore, that we'll have somebody that we can just name president right away. Well, hold on. We're not even done with the primaries. We haven't even had a national election. The idea that this person should be the person that we just assume is the nominee and that we should vote for is absolutely insane. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. I think you're insane too. It's fine if you disagree. I think you're an absolute nincompoop if you think that is, on any level okay on any level. Here's an interesting story. An 11-year-old changed election results on a replica Florida state website in under 10 minutes. An 11-year-old boy on Friday was able to hack into a replica of the Florida state election website and change voting results found there in under 10 minutes during the world's largest yearly hacking convention, DEF CON 26. Organizers of the event said. Oh, this is from 2018. Interesting. Anyways, it's 2 years old, but relevant. I was like, why are they having this DEF CON thing in the middle of a pandemic? They aren't. This is 2 years old. Thousands of adult hackers attend the convention annually, while this year a group of children attempted to hack 13 imitation websites linked to voting in presidential battleground states. The boy, who was identified by DEF CON officials as Emmett Brewer, accessed a replica of the Florida State Secretary website. He was one of about 50 children between the ages of 8 and 16 who were taking part in the so-called DEF CON voting machine hacking village, a portion of which allowed kids the chance to manipulate party names, candidate names, and vote count totals. All right. Good news. So easy, even a child can do it. Here's a very interesting story out of the Financial Times. Oil industry faces biggest crisis in 100 years. Excuse me. Producers are facing up to the crash in oil demand as the pandemic forces economies into hibernation. It is no exaggeration to say the oil industry faces its gravest crisis of the past 100 years. Yay! Yay! Oh, poor oil industry. Oh, that's going to suck. As Western economies go into hibernation, hoping to snuff out the first wave of the bug through lockdowns and isolation, the industry is facing up to the fact. What's up? Is facing up to the fact that fuel demand is going to fall faster than ever before. Already, prices have roughly halved since the start of this month, as airlines have been grounded and millions of commuters eschew the car for a short walk to a laptop on their kitchen table. Yay! Terrible for the economy. Great for climate change. For an industry, I know that we're powering all these laptops. I know. We're powering lights and laptops and heat and AC and whatever it is people are using. We're powering all these things with fossil fuels. Yes. But, however, emissions are falling across the board. That is no doubt. For an industry long aware that 1% to 2% swing in the balance of supply and demand can be the difference between prices soaring or collapsing, the extent of the fall in consumption is hard to process. As Europe and North America hunker down, the latest estimates suggest 10 to 25% of global consumption could vanish in the coming few months. In normal times, the world consumes some 100 million barrels a day. 25% of global consumption could vanish. Wow. Such is the scale of the demand collapse that it risks overshadowing the price war between Saudi Arabia and Russia, who are flooding the market with unnecessary barrels after falling out over how to respond to the crisis. There is little doubt their actions have exacerbated the crash and lengthened the timeline of recovery. The result is likely to be storage tanks being filled to the brim within months. Even supertankers at sea called into action as emergency storage vessels could be maxed out by the end of the summer. Respite will only come once the most expensive oil production starts to shut down or the weakest producers go bust. But oil fields cannot be turned off and on like the flick of a light switch. The cost and risk of shutting down active production is more likely to lead to a war of attrition. Crude dipped below $25 a barrel last week, its lowest level since 2003. Large-scale layoffs already shooting higher in leisure industries will not be far behind for the energy sector, with scattered reports of contractors already being let go. The crash has come at the worst possible time for an industry that was already out of favor with investors who fear that oil demand will peak in the next decade or so and worry about environmental impacts. The few hardy investors who stuck with the energy majors have been burnt once again. BP's share price is down more than 50% this year to a level last seen in 1995, sinking below even the depths of the Macondo disaster when the company's very survival was in doubt. ExxonMobil, one of the world's biggest publicly listed company, once the world's biggest publicly listed company, has lost 70% of its market value over the past 6 years. 70%. If the short-term outlook for the industry is frankly a hellscape, the long-term outlook is arguably not that much better. The pandemic could leave a mark on already stuttering. Do you like that? Oil demand growth. I've stuttered saying stutter. International travel will take time to recover. Companies and employees who adapt successfully to working from home are likely to make it a bigger part of their future, keeping more cars off the road. Yay, silver lining. That leaves the industry with little to pitch beyond medium-term hopes. The sheer size of the price crash will ultimately starve competitors of so much investment that production falls short and prices rise. But a recovery bookended by a disaster from the latest crash to peak demand is unlikely to be considered particularly compelling. In that context, BP's decision to stick with its commitment to accelerate into energy transition makes perfect sense, despite naysayers arguing that the price crash would weaken the company's resolve. National oil companies, too, are left surveying the ashes. Saudi Arabia has pretty much torched its own carefully cultivated image as a reliable steward of the oil market. Even if the kingdom emerges victorious from the price war with a bigger share of the soon-to-be shrinking market, political allies will see confirmation that warm words about stability mean little under the leadership of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. For some, the oil industry might seem a deserving victim. For some. Its arrogance over climate change, only partially reversed in recent years, has cost it many sympathizers. But you do not have to think charitably towards the sector to realize there is a tragedy in waiting. Yeah. Well, we shall see. This is again, it means a lot of different things. It's not good and bad. This is, obviously going to have effects on people's livelihoods. Could eventually... Thunder, don't do that. No. Sorry about that. So let's look lastly at the coronavirus. The pandemic numbers, can't stop myself from saying it. Today updated 459,000 total, almost 460,000 worldwide, 20,000, almost 21,000 deaths worldwide. If we looked at closed cases, the fatality rate has actually inched up another 15% compared to recovered. Deaths compared to recovered, 15%. On a trend line, on a linear trend line, exponential, both going exponential. However, there are a few silver linings. China, both new cases and deaths going down. South Korea looks like new cases and deaths going down, although they had 100 new cases as of today. But still far fewer than before. It looks like, so still Italy, Spain, Italy and Spain are interesting because they have the total cases per million population are quite high. And both of them have over 1,000 cases per million, and total deaths per million in population are pretty high compared to other countries. Very high. Italy, 124 deaths per million. Spain, 73 deaths per million. Iran and France are also high, but way down at 25. Iran at 25 deaths per million. France at 20 deaths per million. Switzerland, also interestingly, being hit pretty hard. They had 1,000 new cases yesterday. 31 deaths, 153 deaths total. They are at 1,259 cases per million and 18 deaths per million. Netherlands looking like they are also being hit pretty hard. Belgium seems to be hit pretty hard. USA, almost 8,000 new cases. 62,000 total in the U.S., 884 deaths total, 104 new reported today. UK seems to be, I don't know, holding steady somewhat. 13 new deaths, 187 new cases, 8,000 total. Seems that some countries have lower death rates per cases. Italy is very high. Spain very high. U.S. is not that high as far as, deaths to cases. So people are recovering better in the U.S. for whatever reason. Italy, they are not recovering better. Germany, they are recovering a lot better per case. Germany has 206 deaths total, 4,000 new cases though, 47 deaths, new deaths, but their death per case total seems to be much lower. I don't know why. Who knows why? Who knows why some countries are seeing more deaths per cases? I don't know. I don't know why. 420 parts per million. TCR Galaxy, ERC1. Well, we're already at what? 415, 416? John D, hold on, let me let you know. No, USA is at 884 deaths total, 104 new deaths. South Korea reporting 100 new cases, 6 new deaths, 126 total deaths. So South Korea also has a low death to case rate, I believe. Yes, because their case rate is 178 per million, but their death rate is 2 per million. USA, 3 per million death rate, 190 per million case rate. As opposed to Italy, 1,230 case rate per million, 124 death per million. Yeah. And they reported 683 new deaths. Italy did. This is today. 5,000 new cases today. Just giving you some numbers, guys. So yeah, we're at close to 500,000 cases worldwide. Almost 21,000 deaths worldwide. Michael Arand asks, anyone know why Iran and Italy have different strains of this? I'm not too clear on which countries. I've heard that those countries have different strains of it, and I'm not too clear on which countries are getting which strain. Are other European countries getting the Italian strain, or are they getting other strains? It's hard to know. Is the U.S. getting the more dangerous strain or the less dangerous strain? It's hard to even know or get any clear information on that. Rich Diana says it mutated and might again. Most likely there are several strains. I don't know. Prudone says malaria areas in Italy match the areas of a high CV death. Interesting. So something to do with that? I don't know. Valmer asked, do you think this is thinning of the human population? Well, it is, but if you actually look at the numbers, if you're looking at the actual numbers, which we're going to take at face value for the moment, because that's the all we can do at the moment. Sorry, I'm freezing up again for whatever reason. There are far more people dying of other things. Heart disease. We have 20,000 deaths worldwide from CV, but something like 150,000 people die a day from various things. So, in the totality of what people are dying of and how many people are dying, it is a percentage. It obviously has the capability of scaling up and infecting and killing a lot of people, obviously. Not downplaying the dangerousness of the virus. John D, 884 total for U.S. Sounds like U.S. has accelerated past U.K. Yes. They were kind of like in contention for a couple days ago, but now... yeah, and so the U.K. actually... Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's ramping up quite as fast as other countries. Prudone says Iran has lots of lung disease due to gas weapons and war between... I guess that was a war with Iraq, 1980 to 88. TCR Galaxy, worst case scenario for 2020, El Nino plus lots of dimming plus blue ocean event. Quite possible. Rich Diana, new conspiracy theory. T-Dump had it smuggled into Wuhan to stop China from becoming #1 economy. He hates to lose. All right, we'll put that one on the board. On the imaginary board back here, conspiracy theory board. We'll tack that right there. And we'll just leave it up there and see how that goes. But hey, I'm just saying. Rich Diana, China says it's Peking. Ha ha ha. Bump. That was a little. Arcadius. During the crisis, many countries are implementing financial help to companies, including U.S. with $200 billion will be the downside. What, $2,000 billion or $2 trillion? What will be the downside of this? Well, the downside is if companies get bailed out and the American people don't, and it becomes another situation where wealth, again, is funneled upward towards the elites and the 1%, and siphoned away from the people who are actually feeling the pain, the poor and the middle class. That's most likely the upshot of that. All right, guys, I have gone past my usual time limit. But thank you all for joining in on the chat. I appreciate you. I will be back tomorrow at pretty much the same time. Rich Diana, 2 quadrillion. I actually might, Michael Arand, I might start the conspiracy board. That would be kind of fun. Just for kicks. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All you have to do is Google that. Google Los Angeles time. That's what time I'm at. So I'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Los Angeles time, if you guys want to tune in. Thank you so much for joining in the chat. I appreciate you. And I will see you on the flip. Peace.